What's up, guys? We are back with another Masters of the Universe Masterverse review. We're getting into, what is this, Wave 4 with Mer-Man. So this is the Revelations version of Mer-Man. So a different take on Mer-Man, quite a bit different from the Filmation days. We've, of course, got him here in our standard Masterverse style packaging. I'm going to say it again, still not the biggest fan of these boxes. The Eternian hieroglyph thing just doesn't really do it for me, but there's some cool artwork on the box. So you've got him there in the big window, got that sort of weird trapezoidal kind of design going, artwork on the side panel, and then a larger shot of Mer-Man kind of throwing down with some sort of sea beast on the back with a little bit of a bio and then cross-sell for the rest of this wave. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go. Out of the package, our Revelation Mer-Man from the Masterverse line. Kind of a curious figure because we've seen some interesting ways that they've been producing figures in this line. You've gotten, instances of just Revelation specific looks that are very different from the classic looks and would require new tooling. And then we've got figures like Trapjaw, like Triclops, that just get their extra looks added on top in a deluxe pack. He could have very well been one of those. He just needs a different head and that armor, and you're basically done. So I'm kind of confused why they didn't go, well, I'm sure there's a monetary reason why they didn't go down that road, but to keep that thing kind of going, I feel like they could have easily made him a deluxe release, because I don't necessarily want to have to buy him again to get that more classic look with that really cool armor that I like. That said, this is what we've gotten, and I do like this look. I'm not the biggest fan of Mer-Man in Revelation. I feel like he doesn't really get enough to do, and I'm not the biggest fan of Kevin Conroy doing his voice. That's really irrespective of the figure, but I'm going to mention it. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. He's basically what you expect. He does move a little bit better in some ways than others, but not as well in other ways. So we've got a head that can look up pretty decently. This is kind of one of the areas where I feel like he moves pretty well. His head looks down exceptionally well. Not really much tilt. You got a little bit of bobble, and then you do have full rotation. Arms go out at the shoulders. You rotate. We've got bicep swivel. You've got your pinless double jointed elbows. We've got hinges and rotation at the wrist. He does have this sort of spike on the gauntlet, so that is going to get in the way of him flexing his arm outward. We've got our torso, diaphragm cut so he can swivel all the way around. But this thing is still, the weirdest kind of joint to me because it's not really a swivel. It doesn't want to do it. Just rubber bands right back. And he'll go up a little bit, but he doesn't really crunch. I just wish they could fix this. At this point, I'm fairly annoyed with this torso setup. It works okay, but it could certainly be better. I mean, he can definitely stand to go down a little bit further than that. That's neutral. That's his crunch. It's not good enough. And then the tilt, however, is nice, but the idea of him not being able to twist correctly just seems weird. It wants to fight you the entire way. And then we do have our more traditional waist twist down there. Legs go out. They go out far enough. He does have, of course, a rubbery loincloth to deal with. They kick forward about that far. You're going to have to fight it a little bit, though. They kick backwards just a tad. You've got your thigh cut, double jointed, pinless knees, of course. And then you've got a boot cut here. And then you've got a little bit of hinge down at the ankle, and you've got slight rocker. So the entire design of this absolutely gets in the way of him being able to move his feet really well. This is that area where I said he's kind of limited compared to other figures. So the head moves a little bit better, I think, but the feet definitely do not. He's still very much par for the course when it comes to this line. Like there's not really anything here that I would say is truly missing or that far removed from anything else we've ever seen. But he does have a little bit of an improvement at the head, I think, just because of there's really nothing going on up there. And then he does have a little bit of a hindrance down at those feet. As far as the aesthetics go, this is one of those figures where I think they basically got him. This particular version, there's two distinct versions of Mer-Man in Revelation. And of course, this line is not specifically Revelation anymore. We haven't truly, I haven't gotten there yet, really. But this line isn't specifically Revelation. This is, of course, a Revelation design, so you do have a little bit of a change up. He's still very much the Mer-Man that we know, but there is some different stuff going on. He doesn't have his armor here, of course, and then he's got all these, scars and cuts all over him, and he still has the weird, goofy textured torso. And what's really weird about this is that unless I've just not noticed it on another figure, this torso is unique to him because he's got all these sort of like gill things going on up at like the shoulder and clavicle area. But the torso still has the one thing that a lot of people seem to, gripe about and are confused about. Why is this textured that way when the rest of the figure isn't? I still just don't understand it, and I still don't like it either. So you do have that to contend with. It's not the biggest deal. It feels like it's slightly less textured or maybe more finely textured on Mer-Man than some others, but it's still there, and it's still weird to me. I do like the belt and the loincloth. This gives me kind of like a 2000X vibe when it comes to some of his coloring with the armor bits. Paint is okay. I've got a little splotch down here on the well, it's not really a boot because the shin armor, because he doesn't have a boot on the foot. I know I can remove that, and I will get rid of that, but I'm going to mention that there's a little splotch of orange there. But I do like his colors. He's very much got like this sort of tropical coloring with the seafoam greens and the sort of dull gold with the orange. I think it works, and it definitely pops against his sort of blue-green color. What I really like are the changes to, this torso in terms of sculpting. So you do have these little things that are different. Again, if this has been used on another figure, I just somehow haven't noticed it. But he's got all of these like little, bits and bobs and sort of like scaly gill type of things up here at the top of the torso, and then on the back of his shoulders here as well. And then you've got all these little nicks and cuts. They're not sculpted, they're just hits of paint, but they are really clean. And they do, just like the rest of the figure, they pop against that color. So you've got that sort of seafoamy green color against the darker green blue. And the torso is actually pretty heavily shaded. There is some shading on the legs as well, but for the most part, you can see a little bit of a color difference between the torso and the limbs, but it's surprisingly subdued. So I do think he looks pretty good. This, again, is not my preferred version. I'd love to get the regular, more regal, armored up Mer-Man, but I do like this look. It gives a different idea in terms of what this character is. And then, of course, you've got your head sculpt. And I think his head looks pretty decently sized. That's been a thing for this line in particular, is that a lot of the heads seem to be just undersized. And I did go back and watch a little bit of this, and his head isn't the biggest, so I think this is okay. It looks all right on this body to me. I do think it probably could still be a little bit bigger, but overall it's all right. You've got, pretty clean paint up here too. That orange is nicely done, and then there is all this kind of like bumpy, sort of corally almost texture on his head. Just fine little hits there, here and there, and then you've got that closed eye with the scar over top of it, which of course gives a very piratey kind of vibe almost. And then you got your open mouth with the exposed teeth and the tongue in there, and that lower jaw is a separate piece, but there's no real articulation there. It doesn't actually move. You can sort of make it move, but it's not going to actually do anything. So I think the head looks pretty good. It's probably one of my favorite aspects of this guy when it comes to the figure itself. Despite the fact that I prefer the regular one, I do like what they did when it came to messing him up a little bit. And then again, I really like the colors, and it just sort of takes me a little bit back to the 2000X stuff. Now, as far as accessories goes, Mer-Man has a decent amount. Like, he's got probably the running average for this line. That said, like I've kind of mentioned, I kind of feel like he was, well, at least in terms of what we've seen with Trapjaw and Triclops, he's kind of, an example of what could have been a deluxe figure, because he has two very distinct looks. So we only get the stuff that really goes with this particular version. So, no armor, no regular head, none of that kind of stuff. So as far as the figure goes, what you see is what you get. He does come with some extra hands. So you've got gripping hands in the box. We do have regular fists, which I like seeing both. That's really great. And then we do get some open palm hands, and these are definitely unique for him because they're like flippery kind of hands. So you can see they've got the webbing in between those fingers, which I do like. They are unique. I don't know really that I need them specifically. Fists and gripping hands are kind of the bare minimum things I really need for this line, but it's nice to get something, at least a little bit unique for this guy. And then we get two weapons. So we get his sword here, and this is pretty cool. I like the design on it. The hilt, or the handle, has some nice paint applications on it, and the blade itself, it's kind of flat until you get it in the right light, and I'm not sure it's going to pick up really well here, but it's covered in like a real glittery finish. So in the right lighting, it will shine. So I do like that. And then we get his, well, it's not a trident because it's two-pronged, but we get his little spear thing. And this is pretty cool. I do wish, that it was a little bit thinner in terms of like the shaft here, because it does seem to be, like a lot of the weapons in this line, it seems to be just a little bit too thick. But overall, I think the sculpt on it's nice. There is a little bit of added detail, a little flourish up here just to make it not just a rod, basically. And then you've got some slightly dull gold for the actual spikes up at the top. I do, however, have a weird thing going on here. There is this little nub, like wherever it got cut off, I guess the sprue that it came on when it got ejected out of the mold, it did not get cut off at all. So I'm going to have to pop that little thing off, this little nubbin at the end. So kind of a weird QC annoyance, not really a big deal. But he's got a couple cool accessories. There's no corncob sword or anything like that here, but he does have two very, very decent, at the very least, accessories. Nothing that's probably going to blow your mind, but this in particular probably works the best just because it kind of seems like a more seaworthy type of accessory. Again, that said, I do wish he was one of those deluxe two-look kind of figures. So yeah, overall, Mer-Man is kind of par for the course. I don't know that there's anything here with this particular version that is too exciting. I do like that we have him. You've got him to add to your ranks, throw with Trapjaw or Triclops, Scareglow, Skeletor, Beastman, give him to the bad guys, and you've got another classic villain for your roster. Of course, this is not the classic version, and it makes me assume, if we don't already know and I've just forgotten, that we're going to get that classic one down the road. It does, however, kind of confuse me as to why he wasn't a deluxe figure like Triclops, like Trapjaw, where you just get two versions in one go. All you would need is the armor and another head, and you're basically done. However, he is pretty good otherwise. I do like some of those parts that he's got with the skirt, with those boots, and then overall, the paint applications for him are pretty nice. Honestly, a little bit better than most of the figures in this line. So that's going to do it for this look at the Masters of the Universe Masterverse Mer-Man. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.